Good morning, Fabio Donetti. We're going to cover the week of November 26 to November 30. I'm transmitting from Buenos Aires, if you see me in the background. And I didn't come from the G20, but I got a lot of scoop on the G20 from local news and local press. So definitely that's going to be one of the topics. But before we get into that, we're going to talk about AMLO in Mexico, the consumer confidence of the small business in America, which I think it helps on our thesis for a big rally on the markets, right? It's a respectable rally in the markets. We're going to talk about oil, that it closed the worst month in 10 years. We have GDP numbers, a little bit of news on Deutsche Bank and Goldman Sachs, and a little bit on, again, what happened on the G20. So let's start with some of the news. AMLO, kind of unsettling yesterday, I have to admit. He took over, the government in Mexico December 1st, and in his opening remarks, he basically says, I came here to undo 35 years of neoliberalism that have destroyed this country. So a very, I would say, contradictory speech, very confrontational. The only good words he had was for President Trump, so that at least they're not going to pick up a fight with him yet, but it was very unsettling. We see how the market will react on Monday. That's a trade that we did wrong, that we bought, then we sold with a loss. And as you know, now there is no airport, and apparently there is a review on banking fees. So these guys are not, the market has been suffering a lot. I mean, it took a big hit on that. Probably you saw it during the week. We sent you some very good charts on not only consumer confidence, that we've been talking about that, but mainly on the small business in the United States. They're very optimistic about the prognosis. They are very optimistic about, the particular business in which they're on, and they're at record highs on approval of President Trump's policies. And as we say, one of the legs of the rally we think is spectacular holiday sales. We had it last week, and we spoke about that during the week. How not just the Amazon and the onliners, but many new retailers have adapted to the new modality, and people like Kohl's and Target and Walmart had made a combination of offline and online, and they're doing very, very well. So most retailers expect a record holiday season on the back of very high consumer confidence and low unemployment. And remember, last year's rally in January was triggered by record holiday sales. So that looks like we're going to break a new record. So, and that, also on the side of the small business things. The other big news from the week, obviously, was and I forgot to mention, the Federal Reserve. I don't know if you're going to call it change in policy or whatever, but basically we went from a perception, and maybe Jerome Powell either changed his mind or he clarified what it was not very clear. We went from, the Fed is an automatic pilot, no matter what, they're going to normalize rates. And that's what the market has been suffering. If you think about a 325 on the 10-year is what triggered the big corrections in the month of October, which basically put everything on the red for the year. Now Powell came and said, no, wait. We're very close to normalized rates, and we're going to be looking more into the data. We told you that in Winston about 2 weeks ago. There was a big piece on the Wall Street Journal, so it was for everybody to be seeing, but not the Financial Times, nor Bloomberg, nor the New York Times had the article about how the Fed now is gearing towards more being data dependent, a la Janet Yellen. And then when the minutes of the FOMC came on Thursday, reaffirmed that. On Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, Wednesday or Thursday, Jerome Powell, I think it was Wednesday, Jerome Powell spoke at the economic club of New York and reiterated the new policy or whatever. So that's the second big leg of the rally. So great holiday sales and perspective with great consumer confidence, just not in persons but in business. And then these new readings on the Federal Reserve. And then we're going to get into the third leg. Oil had the worst month in a decade, which also helps the rally because cheaper oil helps everybody else. On basically a miscalculation of the market on the Iran sanctions. Everybody thought that they were going to be very stringent, very hard, and basically most of the major buyers, India, China, Japan, South Korea, had exceptions for now. So there is now a glut of oil coming all over. We touched $50 few on WTI. So, and then, the Russians say, well, we don't know if we're going to do quotas. However, December 6th, next week, there's a meeting on the OPEP, and on Friday, Russia said, okay, maybe we will consider some cut. Remember, Russia is not a member of the OPEP, but they get together and somehow they agree on quotas. So if that's the case, it had a little bit of a rally on the oil on Friday. So again, good news on that side. But again, cheaper oil helps the rest of the world, especially Europe, especially Japan, in terms of growth. We have, the first review of Q3 GDP on Thursday came in 3.5%, very healthy, especially because business investment was very high on the review. I think that's very positive. And then we have news on Deutsche Bank and Goldman Sachs. Deutsche Bank, 2 rates together on this Danske money laundering scheme. That apparently the bank was too small, and people said, well, listen, the correspondent bank, the bank who actually made a payment, was Deutsche Bank, and they never suspected anything. If you want to believe in conspiracy theories, remember, Deutsche Bank also is the bank that allegedly lent the Trump organization a lot of money. So probably, who knows what they discovered when they raided even the board of directors' offices, everything in Germany on that documentation. Also, Goldman Sachs keeps suffering. This 1MDB issue keeps coming up to the surface. And on Thursday, I think the Federal Reserve started an investigation on how the company handled the thing. It came out that chairman at that time, Lloyd Blankfein, met twice with this fugitive, now financier Lowe. So the ball is coming up. Morgan Stanley pretty neutral on the stock, given the, wants to get more clarity on this issue. And also Bank of America did the same, I think, Thursday or Friday. So careful, all these issues start small, can snowball into big problems or not. But just be careful, pay attention to that. And the last one, the market rallied 5% during the week, I'm just talking Dow and S&P, give or take. And it puts them up 3.2 for the year. Last week, we were losing on every class. Now we had a rally of 5%. The Nasdaq was ahead, 6.5% up for the week, 8.6% for the year, basically on these two news, the Fed and holiday sales. And now we have the third leg. G20 in Buenos Aires was a complete smashing success. I was here following the events every day, from the galas to the meetings. And clearly a massive, spectacular organization, flawless organization, not disturbs, not problems, no issues. Really something that I have to commend my fellow Argentinians, that it was an amazing, amazing job. Second, they managed to get a communique, very extensive, very long, basically acknowledging that the current system of trade is flawed. People are taking advantages, and then it's not fair to everybody and needs to get a review, which is kind of, obviously White House to big credit for saying that, that's what we've been saying. But anyways, they managed to get a communique, they managed to agree that something needs to be done on that. And the big thing, last night, Saturday night, Xi Jinping and President Trump agree to work to ease the issues. The Chinese want to buy more product, and the American says, we're not going to raise the tariff January 1st. The Southern China Morning Post in Hong Kong had very good coverage. Clearly, they have a very good accredited journalist there. And they say that the meeting ended up even with family selfies and things of that sort to show how, camaraderie and, the warm-up of the relationship was there. So it was very positive. The only indications we have is Israel rally 1.2% today, Sunday. We will know what happens tonight in Tokyo around I think it's around 9 p.m. Buenos Aires time, so it will be 7 p.m. New York time, probably 7:30 p.m. when Tokyo opens. But clearly, very good news in terms of something that the market was expecting to happen. And I say, if it doesn't happen, the market might drop 300-400 points. That's all we have. Again, thank you for our clients, like always, 9:45 every day, talking about the markets. If you want more information, visit our page and Winston.capital. We're always in Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can see us there. For the coming week, not much news. We're slowly getting into this holiday season that historically is very, very slow in activity, but like always, we'll be reporting. Have a great week.